Captain Hyojin stared at the massive space station floating before her ship. The structure was bigger than any city on Earth, with thousands of lights blinking across its surface. After 3 months of traveling through space, humanity had finally reached the center of the Galactic Coalition. "This is it," she said to her crew. "First contact with alien civilization." Her ship, the Terra's Dream, was small compared to the alien vessels around them. Strange ships with curved hulls and glowing engines moved slowly around the station. Some looked like giant flowers made of metal. Others were long and thin like needles. All of them seemed old and tired. "Captain, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Boram from the communication station. "They want us to dock at Section 12. Hyojin nodded. "Take us in slowly. Let's not give them any reason to think we're hostile." The docking process was smooth. As soon as their ship connected to the station, a group of aliens came aboard. The leader was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. Behind him walked creatures that looked like walking trees, and others that seemed to be made of living crystal. "Welcome, humans," the blue alien said in perfect English. "I am Commander Taeho of the Coalition Enforcement Division. We have been waiting for your species to develop space travel." "How do you know our language?" Hyojin asked. "We have been watching Earth for many years," Taeho replied. "We watch all species as they grow. It is our duty to guide new civilizations into the proper way of living." Hyojin felt uncomfortable with this idea, but she stayed polite. "We're honored to meet you. I'm Captain Hyojin and this is my crew." Taeho smiled, though it looked strange on his alien face. "Come, we will show you how the galaxy works. Your ambassador Boram is already waiting in the main council chamber." They walked through long corridors filled with different alien species. Hyojin noticed that most of them moved slowly and seemed sad. Their technology looked old, and many of the walls and machines showed signs of age and poor repair. The council chamber was enormous. In the center sat Ambassador Boram, a smart woman who had arrived on an earlier ship to prepare for this meeting. Around her were dozens of alien representatives, each one stranger than the last. "Captain," Boram said as they entered. "Commander, Taeho has been explaining the coalition system to me. It's quite remarkable." Taeho gestured to a large display screen that showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems were marked with different colors. "For 10,000 years, the coalition has maintained peace in the galaxy," Taeho explained. "We learned long ago that when species become too powerful, they destroy themselves and others. So we created a better way." The display zoomed in on different systems. Each one showed the same pattern: small populations, limited technology, and restricted territory. "Every species in the coalition agrees to limit themselves," Taeho continued. "Population caps, technology restrictions, and territorial boundaries. This prevents the wars and destruction that plagued the galaxy in ancient times." Dr. Sang-woo, humanity's best scientist, stepped forward. "What kind of limits are we talking about?" "Each species is allowed a maximum population based on their homeworld's resources," Taeho said. "For most species, this is between 1 and 3 billion individuals. Technology is capped at the level needed for basic space travel and communication. Territory is limited to no more than 5 star systems per species." Dr. Sang-woo looked shocked. "But that would prevent any real scientific advancement. How do you deal with natural disasters, disease, or resource depletion?" "The coalition provides assistance when needed," Taeho replied. "It is much safer than allowing unlimited growth." Ambassador Boram asked, "What happens to species that exceed these limits?" Taeho's expression became serious. "They face the consequences of their choices. History shows us that unlimited growth always leads to collapse. The galaxy has seen this pattern many times." They spent the next few hours touring the station and meeting different alien species. Each group told the same story. They had willingly accepted limitations to prevent disaster. The Velkari had actually removed parts of their brains to reduce their ability to innovate. The Nethrim had changed their genetics so they couldn't work together in large groups. "It was necessary," explained a Velkari representative named Keth Moore. "Our ancestors were too curious. They created weapons that nearly destroyed our world. Now we are safe." Dr. Sang-woo couldn't hide his horror. You deliberately made yourselves less intelligent? We made ourselves wise, Kethmore replied. Intelligence without wisdom leads to destruction. That evening, the human delegation met privately in their quarters. Dr. Sang-woo paced back and forth, clearly upset. This is insane, he said. They've turned the entire galaxy into a prison. These species have given up everything that makes life worth living. They seem happy, Ambassador Boram pointed out, and they have achieved peace. At what cost? Dr. Sang-woo shot back. They've stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped dreaming. They're not living. They're just existing. Captain Hyojin listened to the debate. She had seen the alien ships and stations. Everything looked old and worn down. There was no excitement, no energy, no sense of adventure or discovery. What do they want from us? She asked. Ambassador Boram pulled out a document. They want us to sign the limitation accords. Earth's population would be capped at 2 billion people. We'd be restricted to 3 star systems, including Earth, and we'd have to undergo genetic modification to reduce what they call our aggressive and curious tendencies. The room fell silent. Dr. Sang-woo stopped pacing. Captain Hyojin felt a cold anger building in her chest. They want to lobotomize our entire species, Dr. Sang-woo said quietly. They say it's for our own good, Boram replied. Every species goes through this process. It's the price of joining the galactic community. The next day, the final meeting took place in the Grand Council chamber. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the vast space. Commander Taeho stood at the center, holding the limitation accords. Humanity, he announced, you have seen the wisdom of our ways. Your species shows great promise, but also great danger. You expand quickly, innovate constantly, and show concerning levels of aggression and ambition. These traits led to the destruction of countless civilizations in the past. He held up the document. The limitation accords will help you avoid this fate. Sign them, and humanity will join the galactic community as a peaceful, stable member. Refuse, and you will face the same consequences that have befallen all species who chose the path of unlimited growth. Director Yoonji, the head of the human delegation, stood up slowly. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been quiet during most of the talks, observing and listening. Commander Taeho, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We appreciate your offer and the time you've spent explaining your system. The alien representatives leaned forward, expecting humanity's acceptance like every species before them. However, Director Yoonji continued, humanity must respectfully decline. A shocked silence filled the chamber. Several alien representatives began talking at once. Commander Taeho raised his hand for quiet. Director Yoonji, he said carefully, I'm not sure you understand the implications of your decision. No species has ever refused the limitation accords. The consequences of unlimited growth are inevitable. Director Yoonji smiled. Commander, you've shown us a galaxy full of species that have given up their potential out of fear. You've shown us civilizations that chose safety over growth, limitations over possibilities. Humanity chooses differently. She looked around the chamber at the shocked alien faces. We choose to grow. We choose to explore. We choose to face challenges rather than hide from them. We choose to remain human. Commander Taeho's blue skin turned a darker shade. You are making a terrible mistake. The galaxy has seen what happens to species like yours. You will destroy yourselves and threaten others in the process. Maybe, Director Yoonji said, but that's our choice to make. Thank you for your hospitality, but humanity will find its own path. As the human delegation left the chamber, Captain Hyojin could feel the eyes of hundreds of alien species watching them. Some looked shocked. Others seemed frightened. A few appeared curious, as if they were seeing something they had forgotten existed. Walking back to their ship, Dr. Sang-woo spoke quietly. They're not going to just let us leave, are they? Director Yoonji shook her head. No. I suspect we're about to learn exactly what happens to species that refuse their generous offer. Captain Hyojin prepared her ship for departure, knowing that humanity had just made the most important decision in its history. They had chosen freedom over safety, growth over limitation, hope over fear. Now they would discover what that choice would cost them. 3 months after humanity rejected the limitation accords, Commander Tejo contacted Earth with an unexpected message. He appeared on the communication screen in the main command center, his blue face showing what humans had learned to recognize as concern. "Director Yunji," he said, "the Coalition Council has decided to give humanity one final chance to understand the wisdom of our system. We will allow you to observe what happens to species that refuse limitation." Director Yunji studied the alien commander's face. "What do you mean?" "There is a species called the Zephyrians. 50 years ago, they refused the limitation accords just as you have done. We allowed them to follow their chosen path without interference. You will witness the results." Captain Minho received orders to take his stealth ship, the Silent Observer, to the Zephyrian home system. His crew included Lieutenant So Young, a sharp-eyed tactical officer, and Engineer Hayrin, one of Earth's best technical specialists. The journey took 2 weeks. As they approached Zephyrian space, they could see the signs of a massive civilization. Dozens of space stations orbited the main star. Huge industrial platforms harvested resources from asteroid belts. Ships moved constantly between hundreds of colonies. "Look at this," Lieutenant So Young said, studying her displays. "They've built an incredible empire in just 50 years. Their technology is far beyond ours." Captain Minho nodded. "It's impressive. But Commander Tejo said we're here to witness their destruction. I wonder what's going to happen." They didn't have to wait long. Within hours of their arrival, Coalition ships began appearing throughout the system. Not warships, but what appeared to be diplomatic and trade vessels. A Coalition mediator named Velthos contacted both the human observers and the Zephyrian government. "Honored Zephyrians," Velthos announced, "the Coalition offers one final opportunity to join our peaceful community. Accept the limitation accords and we will help you transition to a sustainable civilization." The Zephyrian response came from their leader, War Chief Thane Kix. He was a proud creature with golden fur and fierce eyes. "Coalition mediator, we have built something magnificent here. Our people are strong, our technology advanced, our territory vast. We need no limitations." Velthos sighed, a sound that somehow carried sadness across the communication channel. "Then you have chosen your path. We will observe and document what follows, as we have done many times before." General Kite, watching from Earth, asked Velthos to explain what they expected to happen. "General," the mediator replied, "unlimited growth always follows the same pattern. First, resource competition leads to conflict between colonies. Then rapid expansion creates communication and control problems. Advanced technology becomes a weapon against their own people. Finally, the civilization tears itself apart. We have seen it happen hundreds of times. For the first few weeks, nothing seemed wrong. The Zephyrians continued building, expanding, and innovating. Their ships grew larger and faster. Their colonies multiplied. Their population boomed. Then the problems began. Lieutenant So Young was the first to notice something strange. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Zephyrian ships. Their engines are running much hotter than they should be." Engineer Hayrin ran detailed scans. "Those aren't normal engine problems. The power fluctuations are too regular, too systematic. It's like something is interfering with their technology." Captain Minho reported their observations to Earth. Intelligence Officer Dong Min, working from the Human Command Center, began analyzing all available data about the Zephyrian situation. Meanwhile, the collapse accelerated. Zephyrian colonies began fighting each other over mining rights. Their communication networks suffered mysterious failures. Ships broke down far from home. Political leaders started making increasingly desperate and irrational decisions, you see, Velthos told the human observers. This is the inevitable result of unlimited growth. The Zephyrians are destroying themselves just as countless species have done before them. But scientist Yu Jin, monitoring the situation from Earth, noticed patterns that didn't make sense. "The failures are too convenient," she reported to Director Yunji. "Ships break down just before important battles. Communication systems fail right when different colonies need to coordinate. Political leaders make bad decisions right after meeting with coalition trade representatives." Engineer Hayrin made a breakthrough when she detected strange signals coming from some of the coalition ships. "These aren't just observation vessels," she told Captain Minho. "They're broadcasting something." Working around the clock, she traced the signals to small devices attached to Zephyrian ships and stations. The devices were almost invisible, designed to look like normal ship components. "Captain," she said excitedly, "these are sabotage devices. They're programmed to cause system failures at specific times. The Coalition isn't just watching the Zephyrians collapse, they're causing it." Intelligence Officer Dong Min discovered even more disturbing evidence. Coalition trade representatives had been introducing what they called social enhancement programs to Zephyrian colonies. These programs were actually designed to increase conflict and reduce cooperation between different groups. "They're using psychological warfare," Dongmin reported. "The Coalition identifies natural tensions within Zephyrian society and then amplifies them. They make small disagreements into major conflicts." The most shocking discovery came from scientist Yu Jin's analysis of Zephyrian political decisions. "The Coalition has been using some kind of chemical agent," she announced. "Their cultural exchange programs include substances that affect brain chemistry. They're literally making Zephyrian leaders more aggressive and less rational." Captain Minho watched in horror as the Zephyrian civilization tore itself apart. Fleets that had been exploring new worlds turned their weapons on each other. Colonies that had worked together for decades declared war over minor disputes. The proud war chief Thane Kix became increasingly paranoid, convinced that his own people were plotting against him. Within 6 months, the mighty Zephyrian Empire was in ruins. Their space stations were destroyed or abandoned. Their colonies fought bitter wars. Their homeworld split into dozens of warring factions. Millions died in conflicts that seemed to come from nowhere. "Do you understand now?" Velthos asked the human observers. "This is what happens to species that refuse limitation. They destroy themselves with their own ambition and aggression." But Ambassador Nayang, who had joined the observation mission, wasn't convinced. "Mediator Velthos, we've detected evidence of Coalition interference in Zephyrian affairs. Care to explain?" The mediator's expression didn't change. "The Coalition provides cultural and technical assistance to all species. If the Zephyrians chose to use our gifts unwisely, that is their nature showing itself." "Gifts that included sabotage devices and chemical weapons?" Nayang pressed. "The Coalition has learned that some species need encouragement to recognize their own destructive tendencies," Velthos admitted. "We simply help them see what they would do anyway, but faster and with less damage to others." Captain Minho felt sick. "You're manufacturing these collapses. You're not preventing wars, you're starting them." "We are preventing larger wars," Velthos replied calmly. "Better that a species destroys itself quickly in one system, then spreads across the galaxy and destroys others." "This is mercy." Engineer Hayrin had been quietly recording everything. She had solid proof of Coalition sabotage devices, chemical weapons, and psychological manipulation. The evidence was undeniable. "Captain," she whispered, "we need to get this information back to Earth immediately." As they prepared to leave, Lieutenant So Young detected something unexpected. Deep in the asteroid belt, hiding among the debris of destroyed space stations, she found signs of life. "There are survivors," she reported. "Zephyrian ships hiding in the wreckage. They're trying to rebuild." Captain Minho made a decision that would change everything. Instead of returning directly to Earth, he ordered his ship to approach the hidden Zephyrian fleet. They found about 50 ships, all damaged but operational, led by a young Zephyrian named Commander Valkyra. "Why do you approach us?" Valkyra asked suspiciously. "Are you more Coalition spies?" "We're humans," Captain Minho replied. "We've been watching what happened to your people. We know the truth about the Coalition." He shared the evidence they had gathered. Valkyra's golden fur darkened with rage as she learned how her civilization had been manipulated and destroyed. "Our leaders weren't going mad," she whispered. "They were being poisoned. Our ships weren't failing due to poor design. They were being sabotaged." She looked up at Captain Minho with new determination. "Can this be stopped?" Engineer Hayrin stepped forward. "We think so. The sabotage devices have a specific frequency. We can build jammers. The chemical agents can be neutralized with the right treatment. The psychological manipulation can be countered if you know what to look for." For the first time in months, Valkyra smiled. "Then perhaps the Zephyrian spirit is not dead after all." As they headed back to Earth, Captain Minho knew they carried more than just evidence of Coalition crimes. They carried hope. proof that the inevitable collapse of growing civilizations was nothing more than a lie backed up by systematic sabotage. They're going to try the same thing on humanity, Lieutenant So-Young observed. Captain Minho, Earth buzzed with activity as news of the coalition's true nature spread through every government and military facility. Admiral Jae-won stood in the main war room, surrounded by displays showing defensive preparations across human space. Ships were being built at record speed. New weapons were being designed. Scientists worked around the clock to develop countermeasures against coalition sabotage. How long do we have? Director Yoonji asked. Based on the Zephyrian timeline, probably 6 months before they start the breaking process, Admiral Jae-won replied. Maybe less, since we already know what they're planning. Dr. Ye-jin, one of Earth's top scientists, looked up from her computer. I've been analyzing the sabotage devices Captain Minho's team found. The technology is incredibly sophisticated, but it has weaknesses. We can build detectors and jammers. What about the chemical agents? Asked Medical Chief Bo Young. Antidotes are possible, replied Dr. Ye-jin. The coalition's psychological weapons work by enhancing natural aggressive tendencies and reducing cooperation instincts. If we know someone has been exposed, we can treat them. 3 weeks later, the coalition made their move. It started quietly, just as it had with the Zephyrians. Coalition ships appeared in human space, claiming to be diplomatic and trade vessels. Their leader, Trade Director Okebin, contacted Earth with an offer of cultural and economic assistance. The Coalition Council has reconsidered humanity's position, Okebin announced to the assembled human leadership. We believe your species might benefit from a gradual introduction to galactic civilization, rather than the immediate limitations we usually require. Director Yoonji smiled politely. That's very generous, Trade Director. What kind of assistance are you offering? Technical upgrades for your ships and stations, Okebin replied. Cultural exchange programs. Economic partnerships. We want to help humanity transition smoothly to its place in the galactic community. Security Chief Wan Shik, monitoring from Earth's Defense Center, immediately ordered full scans of all coalition vessels. Within hours, his teams detected the same type of sabotage devices that had been used against the Zephyrians. They're not even trying to be subtle about it, Wan Shik reported to Admiral Jae-won. Every coalition ship has deployment systems for sabotage devices. They're just waiting for permission to come aboard our ships and stations. Meanwhile, communications specialist Seok Jin analyzed the coalition's cultural exchange materials. It's propaganda designed to create division, he told Director Yoonji. The programs are specifically crafted to amplify differences between Earth's nations and colonies. They want us fighting each other instead of uniting against them. The coalition's confidence was obvious. They followed the same playbook they had used successfully for thousands of years. They expected humanity to welcome their assistance, allow their ships to dock, and accept their cultural programs. Then, when human civilization began to collapse, they would point to it as proof that unlimited growth was impossible. But humanity was ready. When coalition ships requested permission to dock with human stations, they were politely refused. We appreciate the offer, Admiral Jae-won told them. But human policy requires that all foreign vessels remain in designated areas outside our defensive perimeter. When the coalition offered cultural exchange programs, communications specialist Seok Jin had already prepared counter-programs. Instead of materials designed to divide humanity, he distributed information about coalition manipulation techniques. Rather than becoming more divided, human nations actually began cooperating more closely. This is unexpected, Trade Director Okebin reported to his superiors. The humans are refusing our standard approach. They seem to know what we're trying to do. The coalition escalated their efforts. They began economic manipulation, using their vast trade networks to create shortages of materials that human colonies needed. They expected this to create conflict between Earth and its outer settlements. Instead, economist Junho had anticipated this tactic. Human colonies had already begun developing alternative supply chains and backup resource sources. When coalition restrictions hit, human settlements actually became more self-sufficient, not more dependent. Their economic warfare is making us stronger, Junho reported with satisfaction. We're being forced to innovate and adapt faster than we ever would have otherwise. The coalition tried their chemical weapons next. They began releasing psychological manipulation agents into the atmosphere of human colonies, the same substances that had driven Zephyrian leaders to madness. But Dr. Yejin's medical teams were ready. They had developed detectors that could identify the chemicals within hours of release. Treatment protocols were in place. Instead of becoming more aggressive and irrational, exposed humans received immediate medical care and made full recoveries. How are they doing this? Coalition Director Zarmeth demanded from his flagship. No species has ever been prepared for our methods. How do the humans know exactly what we're going to do? The answer came when Intelligence Officer Dong Min successfully hacked into Coalition communications. The humans had been gathering information about Coalition tactics from day one. They knew about the sabotage devices, the chemical weapons, the economic manipulation, and the propaganda campaigns because they had seen it all used against the Zephyrians. More importantly, humanity was sharing this information. Captain Hejin led a secret mission back to Zephyrian space, where the hidden survivors were still struggling to rebuild. She brought advanced jammers that could disable Coalition sabotage devices, medical supplies to treat chemical weapon exposure, and communication equipment that couldn't be intercepted. "You're helping us," Commander Valkyra said in amazement. "But why? What do you gain from this?" "We gain allies," Captain Hejin replied simply. "The Coalition wants us to fight alone, so we're going to make sure no one fights alone." The Zephyrian survivors began to recover faster than anyone had thought possible. With their ships protected from sabotage and their leaders thinking clearly again, they started reuniting their scattered colonies. Within months, Zephyrian fleets were once again patrolling their home system. This caused panic in the Coalition. Never before had a broken species begun to recover. Their entire system depended on permanent collapse, not temporary setbacks. "The humans are teaching them resistance," Admiral Yoon Seo reported to the Coalition leadership. "Our standard braking protocols aren't just failing, they're being systematically countered." Director Zarmeth called an emergency meeting of the Coalition Council. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss the human problem. "This cannot be allowed to continue," Zarmeth announced. "If other species learn that recovery is possible, our entire system will collapse. Order must be restored." They decided to accelerate the human braking process. Instead of waiting for gradual collapse, they would try to force immediate economic and social disaster. Coalition trade fleets began actively attacking human shipping. Their agents started spreading more aggressive propaganda designed to trigger civil wars on Earth. But humanity's response surprised them again. Instead of fragmenting under pressure, human military units began coordinating more effectively. Admiral Jae-won had prepared for exactly this scenario. Human fleets didn't scatter when attacked. They regrouped and fought back. Their ships are working together better under stress. "Not worse," reported Coalition Admiral Nexvorth after a failed raid on human supply lines. "Our attacks are making them stronger, not weaker." Sociologist Min Jung had studied human psychology extensively. She understood something the Coalition had missed. "Humans don't break the same way other species do," she explained to Director Yoonji. "We're naturally diverse and adaptable. When you try to amplify our differences, we find ways to use those differences as strengths. When you attack us, we unite against the common threat." The Coalition's greatest shock came when other species began to take notice. Word spread quietly through galactic communication networks that humanity was successfully resisting breaking. More importantly, they were helping other species resist as well. Researcher Sung Min detected something unprecedented in Coalition space. Species that had been limited for thousands of years were beginning to ask questions. They wanted to know how humanity was surviving Coalition pressure. Some were even secretly requesting help. "The unthinkable is happening," researcher Sung Min reported. "The Coalition's control is based on fear and ignorance. Humanity is providing hope and knowledge. Other species are starting to remember what they gave up." The breaking point came when human ships made contact with the Velkari, the species that had lobotomized themselves to reduce innovation. Some Velkari had kept their full intelligence in secret, hidden from Coalition oversight. They reached out to humanity for help. "Can the damage be reversed?" asked Dr. Kolmay, one of the hidden Velkari scientists. Dr. Yejin studied their medical data. "I think so. It will take time and careful surgery, but we can restore what was taken." For the first time in millennia, Velkari began recovering their full intellectual capacity. Within weeks, they were developing technologies that surpassed anything the Coalition had seen in centuries. Coalition Director Zar Meth watched his Captain Heejin's ship, the Hope's Edge, dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a dead world in what used to be Zephyrian space. The planet's surface was scarred with the remains of massive cities, now empty and crumbling. But her sensors detected life signs in the underground caverns. "This is Captain Heejin of the human vessel Hope's Edge," she broadcast. "We're here to help," the response came quickly. "Human ship, this is Commander Valkyra of the Zephyrian Resistance." "We've been waiting for you," Heejin smiled. In the 6 months since first contact with the Zephyrian survivors, humanity had quietly built a network of resistance across Coalition space. Every species that had been broken contained hidden groups of survivors who remembered what their civilizations had been before the limitations. The Hope's Edge landed in a concealed cave complex, where dozens of Zephyrian ships were hidden. Commander Valkyra met them at the landing pad, her golden fur now marked with scars from recent battles. "How many have you found?" Heejin asked. "More than we dared hope," Valkyra replied. When news spread that recovery was possible, resistance cells emerged from everywhere. "We estimate 30% of our population survived in hidden colonies and underground cities." Medic Jae-hyung began setting up medical equipment to treat Zephyrians still suffering from Coalition chemical weapons. Engineer Myung-hoon worked with Zephyrian technicians to install human-designed jammers that would protect their ships from sabotage. "The Coalition believes we were completely destroyed," Valkyra explained as they worked. "They've moved their enforcement fleets away from our territory. It's given us time to reunite our scattered people." But the real breakthrough had come 3 weeks earlier, when human scientists made contact with the Valkyrie resistance. The Valkyrie had seemed like the Coalition's greatest success story, a species that had voluntarily reduced their own intelligence to prevent dangerous innovation. The truth was more complex. Leader Bum-yi received a coded message from Dr. Kolmei, transmitted through hidden Valkyrie communication networks. "The humans have developed a procedure to reverse the neural modifications," the message said. "We can restore what was taken from us." The underground Valkyrie research facility was hidden deep beneath their homeworld's surface, far from Coalition monitoring stations. Dr. Kolmei and her team had secretly maintained their full intelligence for centuries, working in isolation to preserve Valkyrie knowledge and culture. "We told the Coalition we had removed our capacity for innovation," Dr. Kolmei explained to the human medical team led by neurosurgeon Kaiwan. "In reality, we only modified the surface areas of our brains. The deeper cognitive functions remained intact, just dormant. The reversal procedure was delicate but successful. One by one, Valkyrie, who had lived for generations with reduced intelligence, began to remember who they really were. The process was emotionally overwhelming. Imagine suddenly remembering that you had once been able to think clearly, create, and dream, only to realize that ability had been stolen from you. "I had forgotten what it felt like to truly understand," whispered Dr. Retvin after his procedure was complete. Tears ran down his face as centuries of suppressed memories returned. "I had forgotten the joy of discovery." Within weeks, the restored Valkyrie were developing technologies that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for millennia. Their natural intelligence, combined with centuries of hidden research, produced innovations that amazed even human scientists. The Nethrim were next. This species had genetically modified themselves to be incapable of large-scale cooperation, believing that unity led to conquest and war. But biologist Raywan discovered that their modifications were reversible. "The genetic changes are surprisingly simple," she reported to the human research team. "The Coalition scientists weren't trying to permanently cripple them. They just wanted to make them dependent on Coalition guidance for any major projects." The Nethrim Restoration Project was led by their hidden leader, a remarkable individual named Coordinator Jin Young, who had somehow avoided the genetic modifications. She had spent decades secretly organizing small resistance cells, preparing for the day when unity might again be possible. "Our ancestors weren't wrong to fear unity," she explained to Ambassador Chulman during the restoration process. "But they were wrong to think the only choice was between isolation and conquest. You humans have shown us a third path, unity for mutual protection and growth." As the genetic therapy spread through hidden Nethrim populations, something beautiful began to happen. For the first time in centuries, Nethrim began working together on large projects. Their natural cooperative instincts, enhanced by generations of forced independence, made them incredibly effective at organizing complex operations. They're achieving planetary coordination in months, reported strategist Wu Jin, who was observing the Nethrim reunification process. It's taking them less time to reunite their entire species than it took us to organize a single military campaign. The coalition began to notice the changes. Supreme Coordinator Max Vell received increasingly disturbing reports from enforcement divisions across the galaxy. The Zephyrian destruction was incomplete, reported Enforcement Commander Takrel. Significant population centers have reappeared. Their ships are operating with advanced technology that should be impossible. After a complete breaking, the Velkari are showing signs of technological advancement beyond their limitations, added Science Monitor Feldon. We're detecting research activities that suggest restoration of their full cognitive abilities. Nethrim colonies are coordinating activities across multiple star systems, reported Trade Monitor Hexform. This violates every genetic limitation we implemented. But the most disturbing report came from General Ho Siok, who was monitoring human military activities. Human recovery fleets are operating throughout Coalition space, he announced. They're not just resisting our breaking protocols, they're actively helping other species resist as well. The evidence was overwhelming. Wherever humans went, other species began to remember what they had lost. The carefully maintained system of limitation and control that had kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia was crumbling. How is this possible? Moxvell demanded. No species has ever successfully resisted our methods. How are humans not only surviving but helping others survive? The answer came from Dr. Sulkex, the Coalition's chief scientist. Humans are fundamentally different from other species we've encountered. Their natural diversity makes them resistant to our social manipulation techniques. Their adaptability allows them to overcome our technological sabotage. Most importantly, their cooperative instincts extend beyond their own species. Moxvell didn't understand. All species have cooperative instincts within their own groups. Not like this, Dr. Sulkex replied. Most species cooperate within their group and compete with outsiders. Humans seem capable of extending their cooperative instincts to include other species entirely. They're treating alien resistance movements as part of their own survival strategy. This was the Coalition's worst nightmare. Their entire system depended on keeping species isolated and dependent. If species began working together, sharing technologies and strategies, the Coalition's advantages would disappear. The situation became critical when human ships made contact with resistance movements among the Coalition's own member species. Even civilizations that had been successfully limited for thousands of years were beginning to question their restrictions. Commander Inho led a secret mission to contact the Drakari, a species that had accepted strict population controls in exchange for Coalition protection. The Drakari leadership was shocked to learn about the Coalition's true methods. You're telling us that the Zephyrian collapse was artificially created? Asked Drakari Prime Minister Yeltoth. That our own limitations might be unnecessary? Not just unnecessary, Inho replied. Actively harmful. Your species could be exploring the galaxy, developing new technologies, growing and thriving. Instead, you're trapped in artificial stagnation. The Drakari government called for a secret review of their Coalition agreements. Within months, they quietly began exceeding their population limits and expanding their research programs. When Coalition monitors detected the violations, they threatened immediate breaking protocols. The Drakari response was unprecedented. We decline, Prime Minister Yeltoth announced publicly. We have learned about the true nature of your protection. We choose growth over limitation. Similar scenes played out across Coalition space. The carefully maintained order of 10,000 years was collapsing as species after species chose freedom over safety. Supreme Coordinator Moxvell faced the greatest crisis in Coalition history. If this continues, we will lose control of the entire galaxy, he told the Emergency Council session. Species are refusing limitation, recovering from breaking and actively resisting our authority. The human influence must be stopped, declared War Master Kex Thryon. They're like a virus spreading resistance wherever they go. It's worse than that, reported Intelligence Chief Nolvex. The humans aren't just helping individual species. They're building networks. Zephyrian ships are sharing technology with Velkari scientists. Nethrum coordinators are organizing multi-species resistance cells. The humans have created the first true interspecies alliance. The coalition war began with overwhelming force converging on Earth's solar system. Fleet Admiral Zhang Ho watched from the command bridge of humanity's flagship as thousands of alien vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The enemy fleet stretched across space like a vast metal cloud blocking out the stars. Final count? He asked his tactical officer. 17,000 coalition ships. Lieutenant Do-hyun replied grimly. We have 300 human vessels and maybe 200 allied ships from the resistance movements. War Master Kex Thrion's voice boomed across all communication channels. Humans of Earth, you have contaminated the galaxy with your dangerous ideologies. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive in proper limitation. Resist, and you will be completely destroyed. Fleet Admiral Zhang Ho activated the general broadcast system. War Master Kex Thryon, humanity has an answer for you. He paused, looking around at his crew. No. The battle began immediately. Coalition ships moved in perfect formation, their strategies honed by 10,000 years of crushing resistance movements. Their weapons were powerful, their shields strong, their tactics proven against countless species. But something was wrong from the first exchange of fire. Strategic Commander Sunmi, coordinating the defense from Earth's war room, had studied every battle the coalition had fought in recorded history. They're fighting the last war, she told her staff. Their tactics are designed to break the will of isolated species, not to defeat a coordinated defense. Captain Do-hyun led a squadron of human fighters against a coalition battle group. Instead of the scattered, panicked resistance the coalition expected, human ships moved with precise coordination. When coalition vessels concentrated their fire on one target, other human ships immediately covered for it. When the enemy tried to split human forces, they found their own formations being efficiently destroyed by coordinated attacks. This isn't how broken species behave, muttered Coalition Captain Vex Dara, as his battle group was systematically dismantled by human tactics. They should be running by now. The Coalition's confidence began to crack when Allied ships arrived from across the galaxy. Zephyrian vessels, their technology restored and improved, struck Coalition supply lines with devastating effectiveness. Valkyrie ships equipped with innovations beyond anything seen in millennia punched through Coalition defenses that had been considered impenetrable. Squadron leader Hyo Wan led a mixed force of human, Zephyrian and Valkyrie ships against a Coalition stronghold. The coordination between different species was seamless. Humans provided tactical flexibility, Zephyrians brought raw power, and Valkyrie contributed technological superiority. How are they working together so effectively? Demanded Coalition Admiral Torkenth. Different species can't coordinate like this. It's impossible. But Admiral Yura, commanding the Allied fleet coordination, had spent months preparing for exactly this moment. Human military doctrine emphasized adaptability and cooperation. When combined with the unique strengths of freed species, it created something the Coalition had never faced, a truly unified force. The turning point came when Chief Engineer Si Woo implemented the most ambitious plan in human history. Working with Valkyrie scientists and Nethrim coordinators, he had developed a way to broadcast information across the entire galaxy simultaneously. All teams report ready. Communications Director So Jin announced from the massive transmission array built in secret over the past 6 months. Execute Operation Truth, ordered Coordinator Jin Young, the Nethrim leader who had become the unofficial coordinator of the multi-species alliance. Across the galaxy, every communication system suddenly carried the same signal. The Coalition's breaking protocols, their sabotage technologies, their chemical weapons, their manufactured collapses, all of it was broadcast in complete detail to every species in Coalition space. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Coalition. Species that had lived under limitation for thousands of years suddenly understood that their weakness had been artificially imposed. Civilizations that had blamed themselves for historical failures learned that they had been deliberately sabotaged. On the Coalition homeworld, protests erupted as limited species realized they had been living a lie. On enforcement stations throughout the galaxy, Coalition personnel found themselves facing angry populations demanding answers. The transmission is everywhere, reported Coalition Communications Chief Delvorth in panic. Every species in the galaxy now knows our methods. We can't stop it. Supreme Coordinator Moxvel watched his empire crumbling in real time. Reports flooded in from across coalition space. Species were refusing orders, enforcement stations were being overrun, and limited civilizations were beginning to exceed their restrictions. But the worst news came from the battlefield around Earth. Our forces are withdrawing, War Master Kexthrion reported reluctantly. The fleet is experiencing massive desertions. Many of our own species are refusing to fight after hearing the transmission. The coalition military had always depended on species believing in the righteousness of their cause. When coalition soldiers learned that they had been enforcing artificial limitations and manufactured suffering, many simply stopped fighting. Admiral Yura coordinated the Allied pursuit of retreating coalition forces, but instead of destroying them, her orders were different. "Attention coalition vessels," she broadcast. "You are not our enemies. Your leaders have lied to you just as they lied to us. Any ship that wishes to join the liberation of the galaxy is welcome to do so." Hundreds of coalition ships changed sides immediately. Their crews, composed of limited species who had just learned the truth about their situation, were eager to help free others. The final battle took place not around Earth, but at the coalition's central command station. Supreme Coordinator Moxville had gathered the last loyal forces around the massive structure that had controlled the galaxy for millennia. "This station represents 10,000 years of peace and order," he declared to his remaining supporters. "We cannot allow chaos to return to the galaxy." But the Allied fleet that approached the station was unlike anything in galactic history. Ships from dozens of species, all working together, all sharing technologies and tactics, all united in their determination to end artificial limitation forever. The battle was brief. Coalition defenses, designed to overwhelm individual species, were simply not adequate against the combined power of liberated civilizations working together. When Moxville's station fell, the last remnant of the old order died with it. In the aftermath, Ambassador Sujin stood before the first galactic assembly in 10,000 years. The gathering included representatives from every species in the galaxy, not just the limited members of the old coalition, but the hidden resistance movements, the recovered civilizations, and the newly freed populations. "We gather not to replace one system of control with another," she announced, "but to ensure that no species ever again faces artificial limitation. The galaxy belongs to all of us, and all of us deserve the chance to grow, explore, and reach our full potential." The new Galactic Federation was based on cooperation rather than control. Species shared technology freely, worked together on massive projects, and helped each other overcome challenges. The artificial barriers that had kept civilizations separate for millennia were replaced with networks of mutual support. The changes came quickly. Felkari intelligence, now fully restored, led to breakthroughs in physics and engineering. Zephyrian warrior culture, channeled into exploration and protection rather than conquest, opened new frontiers. Nethrim coordination abilities enabled projects that spanned multiple star systems. "Look at what we've accomplished in just 5 years," marveled Dr. Yejin as she reviewed the latest reports. The galaxy that had been stagnant for millennia was now expanding faster than ever before. New colonies were being established, new technologies developed, new partnerships formed between species. But the most remarkable achievement was that none of it led to the conflicts and destructions the coalition had predicted. When species worked together instead of being forced apart, they found ways to share resources rather than fight over them. When civilizations could grow freely, they had less reason to attack their neighbors. Explorer Captain Mincio prepared for humanity's most ambitious mission yet, leading an expedition beyond the galaxy's edge to discover what lay in the vast emptiness between star systems. Her crew included volunteers from 20 different species, all working together to push the boundaries of known space. 5 years ago, the galaxy was trapped in artificial stagnation, she said at the mission briefing. "Today we're preparing to explore beyond the galaxy itself. That's what happens when you stop trying to break things and start trying to build them." The expedition launched on a bright morning, their ships powered by technologies that combined the best innovations from dozens of species. As they disappeared into the darkness between galaxies, they carried with them the hopes and dreams of civilizations that had finally learned to reach for the stars together. Behind them, the galaxy continued to grow and thrive. New worlds were being settled, New sciences discovered, new friendships formed between species that had never been allowed to meet as Ekiance and Gal.